Welcome, beautiful Sigma ladies. The most terrifying people are never the loudest. They're the ones you can't read, can't reach, and can't shake. Psychologists call it low-stimulus dominance. When someone walks into a room and doesn't demand attention, but still rearranges the atmosphere just by existing. No fireworks, no noise, just a presence that makes your instincts whisper, "Careful." Now imagine that presence belongs to a woman who doesn't follow, doesn't lead, and doesn't even play the game. That's a Sigma female, and trust me, she's not trying to be terrifying, but she is. Without even realizing it, she triggers anxiety in control freaks, spiritual nausea in narcissists, and identity crises in people who thought they had it all together. She's not evil, she's just too real, too self-contained, too untouchable. And while the world claps for alpha queens and bubbly social butterflies, the Sigma female, she disorients you, analyzes you, leaves you craving her energy, then vanishes like a concept you almost understood. Oh, and let's not forget, she probably didn't mean to scare anyone. She was just getting coffee. Welcome to the 12 petrifying things Sigma females do without realizing it. You're not ready, but let's begin anyway. Number 1. They can see your hidden rage and pretend it doesn't exist. She can spot resentment behind a smile like it's highlighted in neon, and she doesn't flinch when she sees it. That's what makes it so unsettling. A Sigma female walks through life with a radar most people don't even know exists. She doesn't just hear what you say. She catches the flicker in your tone, the pause in your breath, the way your eyes tighten for half a second when she succeeds. And the moment she senses hidden rage, jealousy, or secret competition, she doesn't call it out. She doesn't argue. She doesn't even blink. She just stores the data and treats you accordingly. That silence, that's what rattles people. Most expect confrontation. They expect drama, or at least a shift in tone, but a Sigma female reacts like nothing happened. She doesn't let on that she knows. And yet, somehow, people feel exposed anyway. They feel like she's quietly rearranged how she sees them, and she has. Without drama, without warning, without a single word. It's the quiet adjustment that unnerves people, because she'll still be polite, still calm, still composed. But deep down, they know they've been moved from trusted to watched. And she won't undo that move. Once she sees your hidden darkness, she may never bring it up, but she never forgets it either. It's like getting a permanent red mark next to your name in a place you'll never access. The real fear comes from her self-control. She has the emotional strength to know exactly what you're doing and still not react. No yelling, no need to expose you. Just quiet withdrawal, or even worse, complete neutrality. That neutrality feels like punishment. It's like trying to argue with a mirror. You project. She reflects. And you end up arguing with yourself. That's the petrifying part. You realize you've been seen, your mask has slipped, and she's not even going to give you the satisfaction of reacting. You just become irrelevant. And for people who crave control, attention, or manipulation, irrelevance is the worst kind of hell. Number 2, they are unknowable by design, not accident. A Sigma female isn't mysterious by accident, she's unreadable by design. She didn't just wake up one day and become hard to figure out. She built herself that way, brick by brick, through every betrayal, fake friendship, and expectation shoved down her throat. She learned early on that people feel entitled to explanations, to emotions, to access, so she taught herself how to be the kind of woman who gives you nothing unless she chooses to. And that choice rarely comes. You can spend months, even years around her and still feel like you're only seeing the surface. She'll laugh, she'll share opinions, she'll even make you feel close, but something in you will know there's a locked room you'll never get the key to. That's not trauma, that's not brokenness, that's intentional, and it drives people insane, not because she's cruel or cold, but because the world is used to women being emotionally open books. The kind who overshare, who explain, who constantly try to connect. But a Sigma female, she's the woman who can listen to your deepest thoughts, without offering a single piece of herself in return. Not out of manipulation, but because she doesn't need to be understood to feel real. She doesn't chase connection. She lets it earn its way in. That level of emotional autonomy is terrifying for most people. It feels like rejection, even when she's done nothing wrong. It makes people feel unworthy, off balance, insecure. They start questioning themselves. Why doesn't she open up to me? What is she hiding? Did I do something wrong? They scramble for answers, but there aren't any. Because she's not playing a game. She simply doesn't believe everyone deserves access to her inner world. And she's not sorry about it. That's what makes her so dangerous without meaning to be. She's not unknowable because she's broken. She's unknowable because she chose to be. And when people finally realize they'll never crack her code, they don't just feel confused, they feel powerless. She becomes a living paradox, right in front of them, yet permanently out of reach. And that level of calm detachment, it haunts people long after she's gone. Number 3, they unintentionally trigger existential crises in others. A Sigma female doesn't need to say a word to make people question their entire existence. It can be something as small as the way she listens without reacting, the way she watches people unravel without offering comfort, or the way she holds her own energy like she doesn't owe anyone access to it. It's not arrogance. It's not cruelty. It's the kind of self-possession that forces everyone around her to look at themselves. And most people don't like what they see. She doesn't flatter egos or play along with social masks. She doesn't entertain fake confidence or laugh at things she doesn't find funny. And that quiet refusal to participate in the game shakes people more than open defiance ever could. When someone built their whole identity on being admired, validated, or needed, being in her presence can feel like a mirror cracking. She doesn't reflect who they pretend to be. She reflects who they really are beneath the noise. It's not about power. It's about clarity. She sees through performance, through insecurity dressed as charm, through status dressed as confidence. And the scariest part is, she doesn't try to expose it. She just sees it. Silently, instinctively. People feel that gaze like heat. It burns off their illusions. Most people go through life distracted, overstimulated, scrolling past themselves to avoid facing uncomfortable truths. But a Sigma female's energy disrupts that autopilot. Her stillness isn't empty, it's confrontational. It makes people realize how much of their life has been noise, reaction, performance. She doesn't offer answers or comfort, and that's what sends people spiraling. Her silence becomes a psychological spotlight, and under that spotlight, people crack. They start to question who they are, what they've been chasing, and whether any of it matters. They wonder why they feel suddenly exposed around someone who isn't even trying to get close. It's not intimidation in the usual sense. It's a subtle, involuntary, existential slap that leaves people blinking at their reflection, wondering, what the hell have I been doing with my life? She doesn't provoke it. She doesn't even notice it most times. But the emotional aftershocks of being around her, they leave people rearranged, quietly, permanently. Number 4, they intimidate both alphas and betas equally. A Sigma female doesn't fit into anyone's hierarchy, and that's exactly what makes her dangerous to both ends of the social spectrum. Alphas are used to being respected, feared, or at the very least, obeyed. Betas are used to orbiting power, craving validation, and quietly hoping to be accepted. But when either type encounters a Sigma female, they don't get what they expect, and that's where the discomfort begins. The alpha tries to assert dominance, flex charm, or lead the interaction, but she doesn't react. She doesn't challenge, submit, or play coy. She simply exists on her own terms. That's what makes her threatening, not that she resists authority, but that she makes it feel irrelevant. Alphas aren't used to people who don't need them. Her independence reads as defiance, even when she's being perfectly respectful. And because she's not trying to win or prove anything, the alpha loses control without even realizing how. The beta, on the other hand, sees her and feels drawn to something unreachable. She's not mean, she's not cruel, but she doesn't make herself available in the emotional way most people are used to. She doesn't hand out reassurance, and she's not impressed by self-pity or passive admiration. To him, she feels like a beautiful puzzle with missing pieces, and the more he tries to understand her, the more he realizes she's not made to be solved. Both alpha and beta types end up in the same emotional place, uncomfortable, off balance, and a little bit obsessed. And what unnerves them most is that she doesn't do anything overt to cause it. She's not trying to dominate or confuse anyone. She just refuses to fit into their frameworks. And they don't know how to handle that. The truth is, the Sigma female isn't trying to be different. She just is. She operates from a different place, one where validation isn't currency, and control doesn't matter. And to those who rely on power games or approval seeking to navigate life, that kind of self-contained energy is terrifying. Not because it's loud, but because it's untouchable. And untouchable breaks people more than confrontation ever will. Number 5, they're sensually disengaged, and that's terrifying. There's something about a Sigma female that pulls people in without effort, but what really drives them crazy is that she never invites them closer. Her beauty might be obvious, her presence magnetic, but there's a wall of calm detachment around her that never drops. She's not cold, but she's not available either. She doesn't flirt to feel powerful. She doesn't seduce to feel validated. She's not performing for attention, and that alone unnerves people who are used to emotional cues they can follow and exploit. Most people, especially those used to getting reactions, don't know how to handle someone like her. They expect a smile to mean something, a glance to be an invitation, a compliment to be a signal, but with her, everything feels disconnected from their expectations. She can acknowledge you without encouraging you. She can be polite without being impressed. And that absence of emotional engagement is confusing. It feels like being seen through, not seen. What terrifies people most is that she's not playing hard to get. She's just not playing. She doesn't need you to want her, and she doesn't care if you don't. That level of indifference to attention isn't an act. It's real. And for people who build their self-worth around seduction, control, or charm, being around her can feel like staring into a void. No reaction, no signal, just quiet, composed detachment. It's not that she lacks emotion, she just doesn't share it with people who haven't earned it. And she doesn't use her appearance or sensuality as leverage because she doesn't need to. That restraint is powerful. People sense there's depth beneath her surface, but they also sense it's off-limits. It's like being thirsty in front of a locked well. The presence of water only makes it worse. And so she becomes this strange paradox, desired, admired, even obsessed over, but emotionally unreachable. And for people who are used to getting under people's skin, breaking down defenses, and using charm as a weapon, she is the one person they can't touch. Not because she's hiding, but because she refuses to be handled. And that, quietly and without effort, terrifies the hell out of them. Number 6. They create emotional withdrawal symptoms in others. There's a strange emptiness people feel after a Sigma female disappears from their lives, one they often can't explain. She might not have been close to them in any conventional way. Maybe she never shared anything too personal, never leaned in too much, never promised anything at all. And yet, once she's gone, they feel it everywhere, in conversations that suddenly feel shallow, in company that now feels noisy, and in silences that feel colder than they used to. It's not about love or even deep friendship. It's something more abstract and more disturbing. Being around her feels like tapping into something real, something that doesn't need to impress you, fix you, or pretend. Her presence doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't coddle you either. It's just raw, grounded, honest energy, and people are starved for that, even if they don't realize it, until it's gone. When she's around, you feel something different. You feel seen without being judged. You feel calm without being bored. You feel curious without being manipulated. It's a kind of interaction that doesn't ask for anything in return, but still manages to make you feel strangely awake. And when that's suddenly missing, people start to experience this emotional withdrawal that doesn't make sense on paper, but feels very real. They might scroll through old conversations or rethink past interactions, trying to figure out what made her so addictive. But there's no one thing. It's the whole of her. Her silence, her focus, her ability to just be without trying to entertain or perform. People aren't used to that. They're used to noise, validation loops, ego play. She offers none of that. What she gives instead is stillness, and once you've experienced it, the rest of the world starts to feel fake. And the worst part? She leaves quietly. No drama, no mess, no warnings. One moment she's there, the next, she's gone like she was never real to begin with. And in that absence, people start to feel the withdrawal. Not because she gave too much, but because she gave so little, and it still meant everything. Number 7. They smell desperation like blood. Sigma females don't respond to desperation the way most people do. They don't pity it. They don't exploit it. They detect it, and then emotionally shut down like a switch was flipped. It's not that they hate desperate people. It's that desperation sends off a signal that violates their internal boundaries, and those boundaries aren't flexible. They're non-negotiable. She can feel it before a word is even spoken. The subtle begging energy, the need to be liked, the frantic hunger to be chosen. It radiates off people like heat, and to her it's a warning sign. Not because she thinks she's better, but because she's built her life around avoiding energetic parasites. She's drawn to calm self-possession, not emotional begging. And desperation, no matter how well disguised, always reveals itself. She won't confront you about it, she won't humiliate you, but her energy will shift in an instant. One moment she's present, maybe even warm. The next she's cool, unreadable, and eerily quiet. The room might not notice, but you will. You'll feel the way her focus detaches, how her eyes stop really seeing you, how her tone drops into something flatter. And that shift hits harder than any insult. She's not doing it to punish you. It's reflex. Desperation triggers a kind of ancient survival instinct in her. It reminds her of the people who cling, who drain, who manipulate with neediness dressed as affection. So her system responds automatically. Distance, disengage, protect. And the more someone tries to fix it, tries to prove they're worthy, tries to chase her energy, the colder she becomes. She's not looking for perfection, but she needs you to stand on your own feet emotionally. If you can't, she sees it as a threat to her peace. The harsh truth is, desperation feels unsafe to her, not in a physical sense, but energetically. It feels unstable, unreliable. It smells like someone who would rather be accepted than be honest. Someone who will shapeshift for love, and those are the people who usually turn toxic when they don't get it. So she backs away, instinctively, subtly, permanently, not with anger but with surgical detachment. And you won't get a second chance, because once she senses that kind of hunger, she knows it's only a matter of time before it bites. Number 8. They attract the damaged and then leave them starving. There's something about a Sigma female that acts like a beacon for the broken. People who are wounded, emotionally unstable, or quietly unraveling are drawn to her calm, grounded energy like it's a cure. And on the surface, she seems like the answer. They see in her a kind of stability they've never had, a sense of self that doesn't flinch, and a quiet strength that feels like it could hold them together. But what they don't realize is that she's not available for emotional repair work. She's not a therapist, a mother figure, or some cosmic healer sent to soothe their chaos. She may listen, but she won't rescue. She may care, but she won't coddle. Her presence might feel healing, but she's not interested in becoming anyone's life support system. That's where the spiral begins. These damaged souls come in expecting empathy that will lead to rescue. They misread her self-possession as an invitation. They think, if I stay close enough to her, I'll feel whole. But the Sigma female doesn't play that game. She can smell emotional dependency creeping in, and once she feels it, she begins to pull away, not out of cruelty, but out of survival. And the moment they realize she's not going to patch their wounds, not going to pour herself into their empty spaces, something inside them cracks. It's not rejection in the usual sense, because she never offered them anything to begin with. It's more disorienting than that. It's like being abandoned by someone who never promised to stay. The pain hits hard because she represented a fantasy, a hope that someone strong could finally fix what they couldn't. But she wasn't playing that role. She was just existing. And now that she's gone, they feel emptier than before. Not because she hurt them, but because they projected their healing onto her, and she refused to carry that burden. The most terrifying part for them is that she doesn't even get angry. She just detaches. No closure, no emotional breakdown, just a quiet, disappearing act that leaves them starving for something they were never entitled to. That kind of emotional withdrawal cuts deeper than any intentional cruelty, because it reveals a brutal truth. Not everyone who brings you peace is obligated to save you. Number 9. They dismantle romantic fantasies just by being real. People don't fall for a Sigma female. They fall for what they think she is. The mystery, the calm, the elegance, the silence, it all gets twisted in their heads into a fantasy. A femme fatale, a muse, a quiet lover who will somehow unlock their soul without ever challenging it. But once they get close, the illusion begins to fall apart. Fast. She's not soft-spoken submission. She's not secretly waiting to be saved. She's not going to complete someone's broken fairy tale. She's just real. And that reality doesn't bend for anyone's script. She won't giggle on cue. She won't tame herself to make someone feel stronger. And she definitely won't pretend she's impressed by someone who hasn't earned it. What really shatters people is that she's not mean or defensive about it. She doesn't aggressively fight their expectations. She just refuses to perform. And that quiet refusal to be anything other than herself feels like betrayal to those who had already cast her in a romantic role without asking her permission. She'll listen without swooning. She'll show interest without obsession. She'll be kind without emotional availability. And the person hoping to conquer her ends up stuck between confusion and frustration. Not because she rejected them outright, but because she refuses to fit into the fantasy they created. She doesn't play the part. That's when things turn messy. Some retreat, hurt and confused. Others lash out, accuse her of being cold, difficult, too complicated. But what they're really saying is, you didn't act like the version of you I imagined. And that realization cuts deep, because it forces them to confront their own delusions. They weren't in love with her. They were in love with an illusion she never agreed to carry. She dismantles that illusion just by being consistent, grounded, clear. She's not here to be a dream. She's a person, one who doesn't trade authenticity for approval. And when the fog of fantasy lifts, people are left staring at their own emotional immaturity. That sting? It's not rejection. It's the death of a false story they were never ready to stop telling themselves. Number 10. They read the room, then redraw it. When a Sigma female walks into a space, she doesn't just observe what's happening. She quietly takes command of the entire emotional landscape. She reads energy like a second language. She picks up on the unspoken tensions, the power plays, the subtle glances, the fake laughs, the fragile egos, all within seconds. But what makes her different is what happens next. She doesn't adjust to the room adjusts to her. Without raising her voice or demanding attention, her presence alone starts to shift the dynamics. Suddenly, the loudest person in the room doesn't feel so loud anymore. The one who's always in control starts fumbling their words. Conversations slow down. People second-guess themselves. And no one can quite explain why. That's the effect of a Sigma female who knows exactly where she stands and isn't afraid of standing alone. This kind of power isn't aggressive or performative. It's subtle and psychological, which makes it even more unnerving, especially for manipulators, control freaks, and attention seekers. They thrive on steering the room, setting the tone, and pulling strings behind the scenes. But when she enters, it's like someone pulled the plug on their performance. Their tricks stop working. Their charm feels awkward. Their control evaporates. And what terrifies them most is that she never even tried. She didn't challenge them. She didn't speak over them. She didn't even look at them for long. Her stillness, her awareness, her complete lack of neediness, it flips the atmosphere on its head. People start looking to her without realizing it. The attention shifts. The room silently reorients itself around her energy. It's not about dominance. It's about unshakable presence, the kind that makes people question why they were listening to certain voices in the first place. The Sigma female doesn't raise her hand to lead, yet people find themselves following her vibe, her pace, her silence. That's why manipulators panic, because in her presence, they are no longer the ones pulling the strings, and when someone can undo your influence without even speaking, that's not just threatening, that's terrifying. Number 11. They ruin narcissists without trying. Narcissists rely on one thing above all else, your need for them. They feed off admiration, validation, control, and emotional reaction. Their power doesn't come from who they are. It comes from how much attention you're willing to give them. That's why a Sigma female is their worst nightmare. She doesn't fight them. She doesn't expose them. She simply doesn't care. And that's what destroys them. She doesn't flinch at their charm. She doesn't melt at their compliments. She doesn't try to impress them or challenge them. She just sees them for what they are, empty performance wrapped in ego, and silently refuses to participate. That refusal is devastating. Narcissists can handle criticism. They can handle resistance. What they can't handle is irrelevance. She gives them no emotional supply to feed on, no awe, no confusion, no fear. And when they realize they can't hook her with their usual tactics, grandiosity, manipulation, emotional games, they begin to unravel, not outwardly at first, but inside they start to feel exposed, weak, powerless. Because what are they without someone to perform for? The Sigma female doesn't need their approval. She doesn't want their attention. And she definitely doesn't buy into their self-created status. She operates from a place of quiet self-sufficiency, which invalidates their entire identity. While others might orbit the narcissist's ego, hoping to be chosen or praised, she refuses to orbit anything. She's her own center, and that independence is what breaks the narcissist down. What's even worse for them is that she doesn't react emotionally. She doesn't argue, doesn't get dragged into their chaos, and doesn't try to fix or explain herself. She leaves them with nothing to twist, nothing to control, and nothing to manipulate. And that's when their mask starts to slip. Because without someone to dominate, a narcissist has no role to play. They go from powerful to pitiful in front of her, and she doesn't even blink. She doesn't destroy them with force. She destroys them by needing nothing from them at all. And that's not just rejection, that's annihilation. Number 12. They mirror people so accurately, it feels paranormal. Being around a Sigma female can feel unsettling for reasons most people can't fully explain. It's not just her presence. It's the way she reflects you back to yourself with such clarity that you start questioning who you really are. She doesn't even try to do it. It's instinct. She watches, she listens, she absorbs. And without saying much, she begins to mirror your energy so precisely that you feel like you're being watched by a version of yourself you can't control. She doesn't parrot your words or mimic your behavior like some people do to fit in. She mirrors the essence of you, your motives, your emotional state, the energy behind your words. If you're fake confident, she'll respond in a way that quietly strips away the mask. If you're hiding resentment behind charm, her stillness will draw it to the surface. She doesn't accuse or confront. She just becomes the exact reflection of what you bring, but without distortion. And that's what makes it feel supernatural. Most people are used to others responding based on how they want to be perceived, but she reflects what's actually there. No edits, no ego fluffing, just raw, uncomfortable truth staring back at you through her calm expression. It's like being in front of a mirror that doesn't just show your face. It shows your internal wiring. For some, it feels spiritual, like she sees something they didn't know they were showing. For others, it's invasive, almost like she's inside their heads picking up emotional frequencies they didn't even mean to broadcast. And they start to feel exposed, not because she's judging them, but because she's not trying to manage their perception. She simply receives the energy and reflects it, pure, unfiltered, and sometimes painfully accurate. That kind of emotional precision can feel like power, or possession, or prophecy, depending on how honest you're willing to be with yourself. People either lean in, fascinated, or pull away, disturbed. Because once you realize someone can see through your polished self and into the version you hide, you either grow or run, and most run. She doesn't mirror people to manipulate. She does it because she was built to. And if you're not ready to face yourself, being around her won't feel enlightening. It'll feel like spiritual exposure with no place to hide. The truth about Sigma females is this: they don't ask to be feared, misunderstood, or craved, but they are. Not because they try to be mysterious or intimidating, but because they exist outside the scripts people are used to. In a world addicted to noise, validation, and performance, their calm self-possession feels like a threat. Their refusal to be emotionally handled leaves people disarmed. Their depth, unapologetic, unreadable, unshaken, forces others to confront parts of themselves they'd rather avoid. They don't chase, they don't rescue, they don't belong to anyone. And that's what shakes people the most. Some will admire them, others will resent them, many will crave them, but few will ever truly understand them, because Sigma females don't move to be understood, they move to stay aligned with who they are. And that kind of integrity, that kind of unshakable core, it breaks illusions just by existing. So when people say she's distant, cold, or hard to love, what they really mean is, she didn't give me the version of herself I expected. And that is the final truth. A Sigma female doesn't dismantle people with force. She does it with presence. And once you've stood in that presence, you're never quite the same again. She didn't try to haunt you, she just wasn't yours to hold. And that's what makes her unforgettable. If this hit deeper than you expected, if you felt seen, shaken, or just curiously obsessed, then you already know you're in the right place. Don't just scroll away. Hit that subscribe button to join a tribe that thrives on raw truths, not recycled fluff. Like the video if it made you think twice. Comment below what part shook you the most. We actually read them. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. Quietly or loudly, your call. This channel isn't for everyone, but if it's for you, you'll feel it. Stay sharp, stay sovereign, and I'll see you in the next one.